Rachel, we always start with the beginning, right? Like growing up. What was life like? I always find that as I interview and talk to agents, that usually there's something that's either from growing up or early on in their life, maybe a different career that typically has a big impact, into their real estate business. So what was life like for you growing up?
So I am the oldest of four kids. My mom is a medical physician, and my dad is very blue collar. He was an iron worker. So I got both ends of the spectrum as a kid, and we grew up in a small town, Millersport, Ohio, about 45 minutes outside of the city. So my graduating class was like 46 kids, if that tells you about how small the community was. So it was really a humble upbringing. I grew up on 22 acres with a pond and woods and creek in the back. I always joke that I was my father's son growing up because I was the oldest. So he renovated my family home since I was a child, and we went room by room by room by room. So I always joke that I got tool belts instead of Barbies
Yeah.
growing up. You name it, I've done it at this point. Electric, flooring, drywall, all of the things. So that probably sparked my interest in real estate. But more than my interest in real estate was really my interest in business. So, fun fact, I am from a family of women entrepreneurs. So, my grandmother and my grandfather on my dad's side own a carpet and flooring business, and they also owned rental properties and things like that. My grandma and my grandpa on my mom's side owned an Italian pizza shop. So, I
Wow.
spent my summers slinging dough and pizzas and mixing sauce and all of that. And then my mom opened her private practice and ran and managed that my whole childhood. So I've always worked in or around all of our family businesses. So that was my natural interest in business.
Now, did you just like work in each individual of those businesses and like to learn, or was it kind of
Well, it
more
was kind of like part of dues of the family more than learning. All hands on deck. So it was just where my parents went, we went. What they did, we did. What my grandparents did, we did. So it was just by association. We were just always together and always there.
yeah? Now, going through, like elementary, middle school, those types of things, did you do sports, no sports? Did you end up going to college? Kind of lead me
Yeah.
up to, high school, college, after high school years.
Yes. So when you grow up in a small town, you do anything that's available, which isn't a whole lot. So I did play sports growing up. I always have the running joke that it was because I showed up for tryouts. There weren't really tryouts. If you show up, you get to be on the team. So I always played sports growing up since I was a young kid. We played softball and basketball. Those were my two main sports of choice. Um, and so that really shaped how I kind of grew up, what my influences were. Being a small town, I always joke that we didn't have a lot of skill, but we had a lot of heart. So we were never really on the winning side of things, but we
Yeah.
always showed up for the next game and we showed up for the next practice. And we always got our butts kicked by the bigger girls or the stronger teams, but we still kept going. So it shaped a lot of me in my younger years of just kind of that perseverance and competitiveness and never giving up and those type of things. So
Yeah, no, I'm originally from a small school. I moved my high school years to a D1 school, which was
yeah,
just a whole other,
now that's a
whole.
whole world away from where I grew up.
Yeah, but like, my main, growing up all the way up till eighth grade, I think my class size was like 56,
Mhm.
right? And same thing, like we didn't have, soccer. We didn't,
Yeah,
because we didn't have enough kids.
and the kids. Yeah, our football team, we had like 13 kids going both ways. So
Yeah, so I can totally relate to some of that. But
yeah.
so so you did sports. What did you do end up doing after high school?
So after high school, I went to, I was accepted to Ohio Northern University for undergrad. And originally, I wanted to be a surgeon. So I grew up watching my
Wow.
mom in medicine. They probably wouldn't let you do this today, but I would scrub into the OR and watch the general surgeons do different things when I was like 17. And then I went to school. I wanted to be a surgeon. I was a chemistry major. And when midterms came around and the professor said, the average was 60, good job. I said a D is not an option for me. I'm here on scholarship. I have things I need to accomplish. So that was when I kind of exited chemistry and I joined the business college. And I switched from that to pharmaceutical business. And I graduated in 3.5 years after that change. So I was really motivated to get through my schooling and through my education because I wanted to jump into the workforce. My first job out of college, well, I should say I took a little sabbatical. I traveled the world.
That's awesome. Where'd you
Yeah,
go?
I got
How-
rushed through
I'm not
college so that I can jet set to different places around Europe and Asia and all of that.
that.
Um,
That's interesting. Has traveling always been something like a passion of yours? Like, did you do it growing up a lot, or what made you
no,
kind of just
so
make that
I
decision?
mean,
Going from
our
small
version of
town to
travel was
that.
like going to the Outer Banks for a week-long vacation. So that was it. Or piggybacking off of my mom's medical CE trips, which were like weekends in Pennsylvania or
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. Um, so we never did international travel. It was never a thing. I just learned a lot. And when you go from like a small town and then you go to college, you meet so many different people
yeah,
and, you know, different cultures. And it just was curious to me. So I knew I wanted to take the time to travel the world, and it gave me a really great perspective. I got to see how different people live and what they find important. So I got to bring some of that back with me as I was shaping myself into adult life.
yeah.
And then after that little break, I looked left, looked right, and said, okay, well, what are all the people I graduated with doing? And I I got connected with an alumni from Ohio Northern who had a consulting firm, healthcare IT consulting firm. So I joined them as a consultant, and I traveled to client sites around the country for about 5 years, implementing electronic medical record systems during the boom of that.
Now, it's so fascinating. I'm always curious of, like, going from, you originally wanted to be the surgeon, right, and then switch to business.
Mm-hmm.
Business, because of the family dynamics and the entrepreneurship, was that always an interest? Like, was that like 1B in
Yes. So
certain
time, at the time I was making these decisions about kind of my path in business, I wasn't as aware as I am now as to what probably shaped that. So looking back, like my young self, like I was the kid that would collect lunch money from other kids to build a treehouse when I
Yeah,
was like in 5th grade. So I was like already creating a treehouse business, more or less.
yeah,
When we had a family yard sale, I had like the apron with all the dollar amounts in it and the change pouch, and I was like running the yard sale. So when I was 5, I was sweeping porches for $1, not because I needed to, because I wanted $1 to pay for ice cream when the ice cream truck came. Um, so looking back, yes, this was always me. I didn't realize it when I started this path, though.
sure, sure. So you travel, the world. You come back. You go into a career. You're there for 5 years.
Mhm.
Did you then, at that point, make the decision to jump into real estate? Like,
So
kind of
that
lead me to
career
that
had
path.
me traveling. I would be the first flight out on Monday morning, the last flight home on Thursday evening, if I was
Wow.
lucky to get home, weather permitting. My clients were on the East Coast, so you're always caught in a storm somewhere. And I think I call it my quarter life crisis. I think most people have that when you get to your mid 20s and you're like, how did I get here? Like, did
Yeah.
autopilot get me here? And so I just was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't build a life being gone 4 days a week and having a life in a different city and here. Um, so I was looking for something that I could put down roots. And I learned pretty quickly in corporate America that it didn't matter how hard I worked. I had to pay my dues and bide my time. And there were people making money that I was running circles around. And so I wanted to be more in control of that aspect of my life. And real estate was an avenue that could lead me there. And it was a place where I knew I wanted to be. My family's here. I want to put roots down in Columbus. And it was just a natural fit for me.
How did you make that?